We have to make California more affordable.
I'm no longer a porn star. I'm a politician.
The pending recall election in full swing now. Is the former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer being endorsed by Valley Congressman Devin Nunes? And she finished 10th in the last recall. Is former porn star Mary Carey a viable threat or just another publicity stunt? They will both join me as Governor Newsom unleashes his California roars back spending plan.
We trained 2,100 citizens to observe the polls in 36 counties in California. And what we document was so stunning to us that we knew that we could not go back to our normal lives.
Election Integrity, the co-founder and CEO of the nonpartisan nonprofit volunteer group, paying a visit to Fresno this week. What their message is to voters, and is the integrity of our democracy in jeopardy? Linda Payne will join me exclusively. And our panel ready to weigh in, from Governor Newsom's pledge to lift the state mask mandate to the heated controversy over Fresno High revealing their new school logo. Welcome to Sunday. It's KC24, Sunday Morning Matters.
You're watching Sunday Morning Matters on KC24, your local election headquarters.
And good Sunday morning to you. Thanks for joining us. I'm Alexon Balakian. Please join the conversation on Twitter and Facebook at RealAlexon. Use the hashtag Sunday Morning Matters. Along the way, Libertarian presidential candidate Joe Jorgensen will join me in a bit as their party's state convention wraps up in the South Valley. But first, it's the announcement the Central Valley farmers and lawmakers have waited weeks for.
We're also pleased to announce today $5.1 billion, a record investment into water resiliency and water infrastructure in this state.
This happening on Monday. Governor Newsom put the entire Central Valley under a drought emergency. It comes after weeks of state lawmakers, Democrats and Republicans, calling for it. And 6 Central Valley counties already declaring their own drought emergency. 41 counties are now under this current emergency. But Newsom stopped short of a statewide declaration, and the $5 billion water infrastructure bill kicking off a week of Newsom touring the state and advertising his new $100 billion California comeback spending plan. We want to give you some of the highlights of the governor's plan here. It includes a $75 billion surplus used for another round of stimulus checks, $600 stimulus checks to households making up to $75,000, paying off back rent of tenants impacted by COVID, and helping millions of residents to catch up on their water and electricity bills. Newsom is also setting aside the largest investment in state history of $12 billion to combat homelessness. Newsom claims the surplus offers Californians the largest state tax rebate in American history. So the governor rolling out his big spending plan the same week several recall candidates unveil their policies. So let's roll out our panel to start things off and to sort things out a little bit. We welcome in former Tulare County Supervisor, former Assembly Republican leader, and the former state executive director for the USDA Farm Service Agency, Connie Conway, is with us. And former Valley Congressman for the 21st District, and recently launching a new political action committee called Voter PAC, TJ Cox. Thank you both for being here. So let's get to it. The drought declaration is paired with a $5 billion water infrastructure plan, more than $1 billion of it dedicated to clean drinking water, $230 million for wildlife corridor and fish passage projects, $60 million for state water efficiency and enhancement programs and grants to help farmers reduce irrigation water use. So, very small part here. Connie, I want to start with you here. Is the governor meeting the needs of farmers in this drought emergency?
Oh boy. So, you know, it's a lot of money. The devil's in the details, as they always say. Who's actually going to be in charge of making the decision where this money goes? I think the farmers would tell you irrigation, you're going to give money for irrigation efficiency. What irrigation water would that be for? Klamath River Valley, for one, for the first time in history, since they started in 1907, I think, whatever, no water delivery, none at all. And the Central Valley, it's going to be really, obviously, we don't want to turn money down. And that's great. And the drought declaration, good on you, Governor. I appreciate that. But what is actually going to happen with it? What fish is it that we're fixing? The fish that don't exist. If I learned anything in my long life, and I can think an example is this pipeline that we're back east, that's caused such a problem. Food, our food chain, agriculture in the Central Valley, that is national security. And that is at such a crisis right now. You can't get it back. Once they stop farming, you can't get it back. I think you both know Joe Del Bosque, great, wonderful human being, individual, had to plow under his organic asparagus because he had to choose, am I going to have water for my melons or the asparagus? Now asparagus grows every year. He had 3 more years there. That's a loss. It's a loss of jobs. It's a loss of so much.
Connie,
to the Central Valley.
I want to get TJ in here because TJ, I know during your time as congressman, you fought for clean drinking water. That is a big portion of this bill, but seemingly there's no money really set aside to store water in years like this.
Well, thanks so much, Alex. And I want to reiterate Connie's point that, our food supply, our domestic food supply is a national security issue. But everyone, let's keep in mind, that it was a Democratic administration that built California's water infrastructure. And now Governor Newsom, this $5+ billion investment, this is the largest investment to maintain and upgrade that infrastructure since those facilities were built back in the 70s or finished back in the 70s. And so you ought to be a part of that. And I think that we all recognize with climate change and the hots are getting hotter and the dries are getting drier, and drought is unfortunately just such a reoccurring theme here in California. And it wreaks havoc on all of our communities. And so this investment is just a huge step forward with all water users in California. And although that there's not specific money for the storage, as you point out, Sites Reservoir is still being built. But what it does is that there's $200 million in there for water conveyance. And as you know, I secured $200 million, for water conveyance when I was in Congress. This is the state's matching funds to get all the water conveyance repaired. This is unblocking the arteries of water here in California. So this is a fantastic step that everyone should be applauding.
Well, we could talk about water all day, but there's a lot we have to get to and try to unravel a little bit of this big spending plan. It does come out, obviously. It seems like a little bit of what the governor is doing to recover California, and some say it's more about him campaigning against the recall. Connie, I want to start with you on this. The stimulus checks, another round for people there, low income people who make $75,000 or less with children will get a $500 payment. Also $30,000 or less will get a $600 stimulus check on top of that. So the Labor Department, 8 million jobs still vacant. That's by the Labor Department nationally. Does the stimulus checks help Californians recover, or is it keeping them from going back to their job?
Well, that's the $64,000 question. And I'm sure there's viewpoints on both sides. I'm not one to begrudge anybody help when they need it. But at some point, where these jobs are available and business people can't get people to work. I saw a business owner today on something I was watching, and he said even at $15 an hour, they're still going to get more to stay home than they would make coming to work. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult, and everybody's excited about opening. Today I guess we're mask free if we've been vaccinated, according to the federal government. Yeah. And I would really like to see people get back to work, and then see if people still need help.
TJ,
we get people working.
TJ, we got less than a minute. What do you think?
Yeah, I tell you what, this idea that, providing a Social Security or safety net prevents people from working is kind of the same old Republican argument that's been used when they fight against Social Security and Medicare. Let's never do anything to help families and people. And, if you're not working, you're lazy. But the fact is that, 70% of the people returning to work were actually making more on unemployment than the wages that they're returning to. Mm-hmm. And so the jobs aren't going fulfilled are mainly minimum wage jobs. And the fact is, with schools not really reopening yet, we're all not fully vaccinated. I think this gives responsible families pause about going back to work immediately. And I think it's a good thing that because of a livable unemployment benefit, that people can decide whether or not they want to continue to care for their children and families just a little bit longer before they decide to re-enter the workforce.
All right, Connie Conway, TJ Cox, don't go anywhere. We got a lot more coming in our second panel. But coming up, Kevin Faulconer releasing his new tax plan. And is he being endorsed by Valley Congressman and Republican heavy hitter Devin Nunes? The former mayor of San Diego will join me exclusively next.